I didn't start drinking clove water because I believed in a miracle. At this point in my life, and if you are north of 40, you know exactly what I mean, I have become deeply skeptical of anything that promises a quick fix. Our bodies have been through enough. We have tried the trends, we have bought the supplements that ended up in the back of the pantry, and we have learned that real health is usually boring. It's about consistency, it's about fiber, it's about sleep. So when I found myself standing in my kitchen last week, pulling a small jar of whole cloves from the back of my spice rack, it wasn't because I was chasing a viral trend. It was because I was curious about something much smaller and much more specific. I had been researching the concept of sensory signaling, how the body reacts to stimuli before digestion even begins. I had read about how certain aromatic compounds can trigger protective responses in the body, and I wondered if a simple cup of hot water infused with cloves could be more than just a fragrant tea. I decided to run a small experiment on myself. Just 7 days, 1 cup in the morning. I told myself I was looking for a subtle shift in digestion, perhaps a little warmth in the joints. What I was not prepared for was the sheer volume of communication that suddenly seemed to unlock inside my body. It wasn't a shock to the system, it was a whisper that echoed. And by day 3, I realized that this tiny bud, this unassuming spice, was doing something far more sophisticated than just boosting my health. It was recalibrating it. If you have ever looked up cloves before, you have likely been told they are high in antioxidants. And that is true. Eugenol, the primary active compound in cloves, is a potent substance. But if I stop there, I am doing you a disservice. We are so used to reducing food to its chemical parts that we forget the most important part of the equation: the conversation between the food and your nervous system. The real story of clove water isn't about flooding your cells with antioxidants like a fire hose. The real story is about signaling. It's about how the simple act of sipping a warm, aromatic liquid can send a specific set of instructions from your mouth, up through your cranial nerves, and directly into the control centers of your brain that govern inflammation, digestion, and even blood sugar. Today, I want to walk you through the cascade of events that happened inside my body and what the science suggests happens inside yours when you introduce this specific signal. We are going to break down the mechanism, explore the benefits from the subtle to the profound, and by the end, I think you will see that the power of clove water has less to do with the clove itself and more to do with the intelligence of the body it awakens. To understand why a 7-day clove water experiment can yield such noticeable results, we have to slow down and look at the very first second the water touches your lips. It's not a digestive process that happens in the stomach. It's a neurological event. Here is the mechanism broken down into 3 simple parts. The first is the cephalic phase. The moment the scent of clove hits your olfactory receptors and the warm, pungent flavor touches your taste buds, you initiate what is known as the cephalic phase response. This is the thinking head phase of digestion. Your brain doesn't wait for the food to arrive in your stomach. It predicts what is coming. It sends signals via the vagus nerve to prepare the gut. It tells the salivary glands to produce enzymes, it tells the stomach to prime acid, and it tells the pancreas to get ready. The second part is the thermal signal. The warmth of the water is not just for comfort. Heat stimulates TRP channels, transient receptor potential channels, in your mouth and throat. These are the same receptors that sense heat and pain. When activated by warm water, they send a soothing signal up to the brain, which helps to down-regulate the sympathetic nervous system, the fight-or-flight response, and invite the parasympathetic system to take over. You literally drink yourself into a state of relaxation. The third part is the molecular dialogue. As the eugenol and other polyphenols enter your bloodstream, they aren't just floating around aimlessly. They are looking for specific receptors, particularly on immune cells. Eugenol has a unique affinity for binding to receptors that control the inflammatory cascade. It acts as a gentle modulator, essentially telling overactive immune signals to turn down the volume. It doesn't attack inflammation, it teaches the body to stop shouting. This 3-part mechanism, neurological preparation, thermal relaxation, and molecular modulation, is why the effects of clove water feel systemic. It's why you might feel it in your stomach, your joints, and your mind simultaneously. Now let's get into the specific changes I observed and the physiology behind them. We will start from the subtle shifts and build toward the master regulator that surprised me the most. On day 2, I noticed something subtle but distinct, a reduction in that vague sense of internal gurgling and bloating that often happens after a heavy meal the previous day. It wasn't a dramatic change, but a noticeable quieting. Here is the mechanism. Cloves possess mild antimicrobial properties, but we have to be careful here. We do not want to wage war on our gut bacteria. However, eugenol has been shown to have a balancing effect on the gut environment. Specifically, it can help inhibit the overgrowth of certain less desirable bacteria and fungi like Candida without decimating the beneficial colonies. Think of your gut microbiome as a crowded city. Sometimes certain populations get a little too loud and rowdy, causing gas, bloating, and discomfort. The compounds in clove water act like a gentle noise ordinance. They don't evict anyone, but they turn down the volume. This creates a more peaceful environment where the good bacteria can thrive. This reduction in dysbiosis, an imbalance in the gut flora, is the first step toward a calmer, more efficient digestive tract. Most of us in our 40s and beyond have been eating so fast for so long that we have forgotten that digestion begins in the mouth. We chew a few times and swallow, forcing our stomach to do all the work. Drinking clove water, especially if you hold it in your mouth for a moment before swallowing, triggers a massive release of saliva. But this isn't just any saliva. Because of the cephalic phase response triggered by the pungent flavor, this saliva is rich in amylase and lingual lipase, enzymes specifically designed to start breaking down starches and fats immediately. What I experienced was a priming effect. By starting my day with this enzymatic flush, my entire digestive system seemed to wake up more effectively. It was like sending a memo to the entire digestive tract saying, "Prepare for incoming fuel." This leads to less fermentation in the gut later in the day, which means less gas and more efficient nutrient extraction. I have to include this next one because it was one of the first physical sensations I noticed, a feeling of cleanliness and tightness in my gums. We often forget that the mouth is a mucosal membrane, a direct gateway to the bloodstream. The eugenol in cloves has a long history in dentistry for a reason. It acts as a mild anesthetic and a potent agent against the bacteria that cause gum inflammation. As I sipped the warm water, it wasn't just washing over my teeth. It was bathing the delicate tissues of my gums and oral mucosa. This is critical for the 40-plus demographic because chronic gum inflammation is directly linked to systemic inflammation. Inflamed gums create a chronic wound that keeps the immune system on high alert, contributing to arterial stiffness and insulin resistance. By supporting a healthy oral environment, clove water helps close that gateway of chronic inflammation. It's a topical benefit that has systemic consequences. By day 4, I got out of bed and realized my knees didn't have that familiar creaky sensation. Again, I wasn't in pain before, but there was a stiffness that had become my normal. It was gone. This is where we dive deeper into the inflammatory cascade. Inflammation in our joints is often driven by molecules called cytokines, specifically interleukins, and tumor necrosis factor alpha. These are the chemical messengers that tell your immune system that something is wrong and to initiate swelling and pain. Research suggests that eugenol can inhibit the production of these pro-inflammatory cytokines. It's not a painkiller that masks the sensation. It is a signal modulator that quiets the message of inflammation at the cellular level. By consistently sipping clove water, you are providing a steady stream of these modulating signals to the microcirculation around your joints, allowing the synovial fluid to do its job lubricating the joint without the interference of inflammatory noise. This next one was a surprise. I don't have asthma, but like many people, I carry tension in my chest, especially during times of stress. On day 5, I took a deep breath, and it felt like I could get air deeper into the base of my lungs. The warm steam of the water certainly helps, but there is a deeper mechanism at play. Eugenol has been studied for its ability to act as a bronchodilator. It can help relax the smooth muscle tissue that lines the airways. When we are stressed or exposed to pollutants, these muscles can tighten, restricting airflow. The compounds in clove water send a relaxation signal to this smooth muscle, allowing for a wider, easier passage of air. This, combined with the anti-inflammatory effect on the mucous membranes of the respiratory tract, makes for breathing that feels less labored and more efficient. It's a subtle shift, but for anyone over 40 noticing a decline in respiratory reserve, it's a welcome change. Now, I promised you no pseudoscience detox talk, so let's be precise. Your liver is your body's primary filtration system. It works in 2 phases. Phase 1 attempts to neutralize toxins, often creating dangerous free radical byproducts in the process. Phase 2 then converts those byproducts into water-soluble substances you can excrete. This is where clove water shines. The eugenol in cloves has been shown to support phase 2 detoxification pathways, specifically by boosting the activity of enzymes that attach molecules to toxins to make them ready for elimination. Furthermore, it helps preserve glutathione, often called the body's master antioxidant, which is crucial for protecting the liver cells from damage during this process. By day 6, I felt a sense of lightness that I can only attribute to a reduced toxic burden. My liver wasn't working overtime. It was processing metabolic waste efficiently because it had the right cofactors and signals to do so. This isn't a cleanse, it's cellular housekeeping support. This next benefit is perhaps one of the most significant for the 40-plus demographic, where insulin resistance becomes a growing concern. Around day 3, I noticed I wasn't getting that mid-morning energy crash after my breakfast. Polyphenols like those found in cloves have been shown to increase the expression of GLUT4 transporters. These are the little doors on your muscle and fat cells that allow glucose to leave the bloodstream and enter the cell to be used for energy. When these doors are functioning well, your blood sugar stays stable. By enhancing the signaling that opens these doors, clove water helps your body manage carbohydrates more effectively. It increases insulin sensitivity. This means your pancreas doesn't have to pump out massive amounts of insulin to clear sugar from your blood. Lower insulin levels are associated with easier weight management, reduced inflammation, and better long-term metabolic health. As we move into the deeper benefits, we enter the realm of the brain. The blood-brain barrier is a selective gatekeeper that protects your central nervous system. Remarkably, the small molecular structure of eugenol allows it to cross this barrier. Once inside the brain, it acts as a neuroprotective agent. The brain is highly susceptible to oxidative stress because it consumes so much oxygen. The antioxidants in clove water help neutralize the free radicals that would otherwise damage delicate neurons. But more than that, eugenol has been shown to inhibit the aggregation of proteins associated with cognitive decline by calming neuroinflammation, which is increasingly recognized as a root cause of brain fog and age-related cognitive issues. Clove water helps maintain the clarity of your neural signals. On day 5, I experienced a focus and mental clarity that felt like the fog had lifted, purely because the inflammatory static in my brain had been turned down. I mentioned the vagus nerve earlier, but it deserves its own spotlight. This is the 10th cranial nerve, a direct information superhighway running from your brainstem down to your abdomen, touching your heart, lungs, and digestive tract. It is the primary physical component of the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system. Drinking warm clove water is a form of vagal stimulation. The warmth, the aroma, and the flavor all combine to activate this nerve. When the vagus nerve is toned, meaning it functions well, it sends strong signals to slow the heart rate, lower blood pressure, and calm the gut. What I felt was a deep sense of grounding after drinking the tea. It wasn't sedation, it was a quieting of the internal noise. This is the gut-brain axis in action. By sending pleasurable, warm, and aromatic signals down the vagus nerve, we are essentially exercising it, making it stronger and more responsive. High vagal tone is associated with resilience to stress, better mood, and faster recovery from exertion. And now we arrive at the number one benefit, the real secret. The reason I was not ready for what happened to my body. It wasn't the eugenol. It wasn't the antioxidants. It was the ritual. The master regulator that clove water unlocked was my body's innate ability to find homeostasis, the stable, balanced state it is always fighting to maintain. By taking 10 minutes every morning to prepare this drink, to sit with it, to feel its warmth, and to breathe in its aroma, I was sending my body a signal far more powerful than any single compound. I was telling my nervous system that there was no emergency. I was telling my adrenal glands that we were safe. In a world that constantly demands we go faster, the act of slowly sipping a warm cup of clove water became a daily declaration of safety. And when the body feels safe, it can finally do what it does best: heal, regulate, and perform. So how do you do this safely and effectively? It is simple, but the details matter. Start with whole cloves, not ground powder. Ground cloves lose their volatile oils quickly and can be gritty. Take 3 to 4 whole cloves and lightly crush them with the back of a spoon to release the oils. Place them in a mug and pour about 8 ounces of hot water over them. Not boiling, just hot. Let it steep for 5 to 7 minutes covered so the steam doesn't escape. Drink it slowly, ideally first thing in the morning on an empty stomach or 30 minutes before a meal. Hold the first sip in your mouth for a moment to absorb those oils through your oral mucosa. Do this for 7 days and observe, but keep a few things in mind. If you are on blood-thinning medications like warfarin, do not consume clove water without consulting your doctor. Eugenol can have a blood-thinning effect and may interact with these drugs. If you have a scheduled surgery, stop drinking clove water at least 2 weeks beforehand for the same reason. If you have a known allergy to spices or develop any itching or swelling, discontinue immediately. And finally, listen to your body. 3 to 4 cloves per cup is plenty. More is not better. Eugenol in very high concentrated doses can be irritating to the liver. We are seeking a gentle signal, not a pharmacological blast. Now I want to leave you with this. We spend so much money and energy looking for complex solutions to our health problems, when often the most profound tools have been sitting in our kitchen all along. The intelligence of your body is staggering. It knows how to balance, how to repair, and how to thrive. It just needs the right signals. This 7-day experiment reminded me that health is not about doing more. It is about listening better. It is about creating small moments of presence that ripple outward into every cell. If you try this, I would love to know what you notice. Does your digestion feel quieter? Does your mind feel clearer? Share your experience in the comments below, because your story might be the signal someone else needs to hear. If you found this helpful, please subscribe. We explore the science of simple things here, and there is so much more to uncover. Thank you for spending this time with me. Drink slowly, breathe deeply, and trust the wisdom of your own body.